Welcome back to Creating Cooperative Kids. I'm your host, Bill Corbett. If you're just joining us, regular viewers know that I use this last segment in the show to answer viewer questions that come into my email box. Now, to send me your parenting questions, simply send an email to questions@cooperativekids.com, and perhaps I'll select yours on a future episode. First, let me introduce my panel of guests who will help me answer today's questions. Tam Veyu is a transformational speaker and author. Stephen Cesario is the founder of Connecticut Youth Mentoring and Coaching and a much sought after mentor and coach for teenagers. And Ruth Freeman is a licensed clinical social worker in private practice with 27 years of experience in leading workshops, parenting classes, and individual and couple consultations and coaching. Now, I've asked my guests to come back on the set to help me answer this question from a viewer. The parent writes, I had poor role models for parents when I was a child. When my kids don't cooperate with me, I feel myself getting angry and acting like my parents did. Sometimes I sound like my own mother. What can I do to break the cycle and be the kind of parent I wish I had? So this is a question that I get oftentimes from parents. They could feel that we were talking about that in a previous segment, Ruth, and the classic is, I've turned into my mother, right? You know, and not to fault our parents. They did the best they could. This isn't a show to slam them for that. So I want to throw that question. You all heard that question, what the parent was asking. So I would like to hear your comments based on your background, your profession. What kind of answer can we give the parent who asked that question? Tam?
Well, first I'd like to say I think her awareness, admitting that she recognizes that she's interacting that way is great. I actually say that the biggest gift that we can give our kid is personal responsibility, that she owns that she is making this mistake to her child, to say, you know what, Mom needs a minute, I don't like my own behavior, and take ownership. I might have made a mistake here, let me just go rest. Take a break. And then maybe come back with a fresh perspective. It's that pattern interrupt, stopping what you're doing. I like ownership for everything.
That's a good, very good point. In fact, sometimes parents come to me and they say, is it okay for me to get mad at my child? Because sometimes we've gone over the deep end in positive parenting, right? And it's been misinterpreted, of course.
Yes.
And I say, absolutely. Here's what I say. If you're going to lose it, if you're losing your cool, it's okay to go, Mommy needs to take 5 minutes. It's not you, it's Mommy. And then go to your timeout. In fact, I don't even teach timeouts for children because I don't think they work. Not in the classic way that parents are using them, because of course they were intended to be used only when a child's out of control. They're now being used for everything. Instead, the parent should have the timeout. Send the parent to timeout. An amazing thing happened when I taught this mother to do that. She set up her bedroom to be her timeout. She told her children, when Mommy gets angry, I'm going in there just for 5 minutes, and then I'll be out. And then she comes out, has to find the energy to find that smile and come out. The first thing her kid said to her was, no fear, I want a timeout. And it opened up the door for talking about creating a timeout space for their own child when they kind of get out of control. Okay, thank you. Good point. All right, so Steve, as a mentor of male teens, what's your take on this question?
I really think the mother should really find out where that anger is coming from and finding someone she can work with to help figure out that anger. Someone like Ruth, where they can really become self-aware and really reflect on themselves and help become an effective parent. And self-reflection is the first step I think she should take, and collect in herself when she's angry, breathe, and come up with a strategy so she doesn't take it out on the child.
I think we just came up with mom mentoring organization. We need mom mentoring, right? Because they need the same thing. Sometimes I'll have I'll talk to teens and they'll say, my mom gets so angry when I don't shut my, the Nintendo off, or because I brought home a D or something. And, when I've had the opportunity to talk to them, I say, it's not you. It's not you. So don't get angry back at your mom. Be patient with your mom, because she may have gone through trauma, although, teens don't understand that. But just trying to get kids to realize it's not them. and it is the mom, and to be calm about it and to help their mom and find out what can you do to keep mom from blowing at that point. What are the things that lead her up to that? The triggers with parents. What is it you do? And sometimes they'll say, "Oh, well, I should have shut the Nintendo off when she told me." So just getting them to own up to their part in the problem. So a good point. So Ruth, as a social worker, how do you address that question? What would you say to that parent?
Well, because I do this, because I'm a therapist, I'm clear that there's no one answer. So I'm going to give you sort of a few possibilities. The first thing is that as trauma survivors, it's important to understand the emotions you're feeling. Sometimes we're just not comfortable with emotions. So the first thing is to notice the feeling. Almost always, before you're angry, there's something else. Parents sometimes get scared, or they feel ashamed. So, their kid comes down dressed, like totally discoordinated, uncoordinated, and the parent feels ashamed for the child to go to school that way. So they react big. But getting in touch with that shame, getting in touch with that fear, that actually precludes the explosion. So often, Julian Ford at the University of Connecticut created a curriculum to teach trauma survivors how to notice what they're feeling, because in fact, that's what leads to the problematic behavior. So attuning to yourself, to your body, naming your feelings, and kind of dealing with that.
And with your vast experience, I want to see if throw that question at you again. Is there other things that you can offer? Because, and I think you make a very good point. When we begin to help parents identify, here's this thing inside of me, and if we can learn, our watcher, as they say, right, to recognize, here's this thing, this feeling I get, and I know what's going to happen next. I'm going to fly off the handle. I'm going to scream and yell. I'm going to get angry. I'm going to spank. I'm going to do all the things I don't really intend to do. So the recognition is the beginning. And we talked earlier about matching it with taking care of yourself, and to teach parents to take a break when they feel that thing coming on, right? And that's the beginning, to first acknowledge that it's there. And first of all, there's nothing wrong with you. Sometimes I think adults feel, oh my gosh, I'm broken. There's something wrong. I've got to hide it. I've got to quickly stuff it. They try to stuff
bigger and bigger.
it. Yeah, they stuff it, and that only causes more problems, right?
Yes, and one tool is when you feel really furious is to teach yourself to write. Just walk in there and write, this kid did this, and how terrible it is, and take a look at it and see what's underneath that. Steve was saying, find out what's underneath it. Relate to it, connect to it, pick up the phone, talk to somebody, walk outside, take a breath, breathe down to your belly. There's lots of things to interrupt it, and of course, if all the methods aren't going to work, seek some therapy and get support. Pick up the phone and talk to a friend.
The support system is really important, and make sure they have that support system. And it's more than just having girlfriends. It's having the people to turn to say, I wanted to hit my child yesterday, and I committed myself not to doing it, but I did it. And to know that you're not bad. There's nothing wrong with you. There's this thing that you have to quell, that you have to learn to deal with. And it can also come from a different perspective, because I had one mom who came to me with her big complaint was her daughter was barking like a dog. And she's like, the little girl's like 4 years old, and the way the mother's describing it to me, she barks like a dog. Her whole face is angry, and I go, why are you so angry that she does that? And she goes, because she won't talk normal. She's walking around on her hands and knees, barking like a dog. I said, how long has this been going on? She goes, at least almost a week. And I go, oh, okay. So two things. I can tell you some things to do about that to get her to stop. But the other thing is, why does it bother you so much? Which is the other side of it. Well, after several parent coaching sessions, she revealed or admitted that her father would never let her be childlike like that. And so the trauma may not necessarily be yelling and hitting and screaming and violence. It's what our parents tried to put us in a box.
It's our relationship. It's the problematic relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that began her healing when she goes, oh, it's my father speaking to me in the back of my mind. Don't you dare act like a little child, because for whatever reason her father wouldn't let her be like that, because he wanted her to sit sit up straight and be good and do his accent. How are you going to go become a doctor if you're barking like a dog, you know? But they're just kids.
Exactly.
And so it's all about the separation between the trauma that's buried in their subconscious and acknowledging that before you is just a child, right? Anybody have a last minute comment on this whole scenario, this topic?
Well, I think that, you know, one of the things you're talking about is that we can have trauma memories that are explicit, but they can also just be body memories. Like we get into a situation and our body just feels bad. And it can happen in many different ways, but the most important thing is to tune into yourself and talk to somebody.
Thank you so much for being here and coming back. This is a great segment. In today's show, we learned about the incredible effect of both modeling and mentoring in parenting children and teens. We also learned a great deal about the effect of the trauma we experience as children and how it can affect our parenting with our own children. I hope you'll tune into future episodes of this program as I offer more tools to help you rebuild your parenting toolbox as an awesome parent or teacher. Now, if you'd like to get this program in your local viewing area, contact my office to find out how. See, making the world a better place to live begins at home as engaged, encouraged, and masterful parents. I'm Bill Corbett. I'll see you the next time on Creating Cooperative Kids.